Good morning. We've had a good night's sleep, mostly. Been very noisy in this campground. A lot of different animals and wildlife through the night. Heard some owls, a lot of kangaroos, ducks, different birds, possums. A lot of fun things. None of it on camera. I didn't bother getting out of bed to come and look, but I don't really have any good lights to do that sort of night photography, but it's great to wake up here in the bush. So we're going to get a little bit of food into us. I'm going to be off on a walk, and I'm going to show you the junction of two important rivers in this area, and we'll see what we find along the way, eh? Hello, the sun is up and the day is going to be a warm one. It's going to be 29 or 30 again today. I'm just leaving the Kwiamble campground and we're walking through the Lemon Tree Flat campground, then on to the junction of the McIntyre and the Seven Rivers. Should be a good walk. I'm looking forward to it, but I want to get it done early before it gets too hot. It's a gorgeous little woodland walk. The river's just down there where all that green bushy stuff is. That would be alive with flowers in springtime and summer. It's early autumn now that I'm doing the walk. Who knows what time it'll be when I actually put the video out, but got a new microphone system in place that I'm testing out. So let me know what you think of the video audio quality. Thanks, cockatoo. Now, in these little protected gullies, sometimes you get these little pockets up in that little, if I can talk without the cockatoo, up in that little pocket there you can see an old fern. There's another one just here. This is quite a dry location and we're really in a drought at the moment. You can see there's little pockets of ferns. There's little remnants of, oh, come on mate, give us a go. These little remnants of moss and so on. Sometimes in these sheltered little places, that can be a vestige of the former type of forest that it used to be countless millennia ago. As the place has dried out, gotten hotter and experienced fires, those little pockets of lush rainforest type gear have retreated and retreated. One day they'll be gone altogether because of the nature of the changing climate. But it's fascinating when you see a little snippet of it. Some really interesting rock outcrops around here. So the top of all these ridges is basically just granite, and some of them have weathered into amazing shapes. They're full of interesting colours, lots of lichen and just the natural colouring of the stones. I think it's beautiful. I love this stuff. So the track between Kwiamble campground and the Lemon Tree Flat campground is reasonably undulating and is not necessarily what you would call a well-formed track. The track is apparent and obvious. There's a few rocky areas to walk over, but you will need reasonably steady footing and confidence in your agility to walk these tracks. Where the river cuts its way down through a gorge like this, you get some nice little views. It's not a huge cliff, it's only, I don't know, 5 or 6 metres, but we're probably 12, 14 metres above the river level. You can see it's quite low at the moment. A lot of weed is built up. It's not running very much. So that's probably having an impact on our fishing, but it's still a nice spot to walk along. There's still some water holes in it. So I was a bit concerned originally when we planned this trip the river was quite high. There was a lot of water here, very green and lush. But now, 6 months later, quite a bit of drought. So things change very rapidly around here. See that monstrosity? Also known as a prickly pear. So this was the scourge of large parts of Australia during the early 1900s, late 1800s. Lots of country was lost. There was a lot of country that was so unusable, so choked up with this prickly pear that the government had all but given up on it. So they actually set up a scheme where they would give out selection lots to people who were willing to take on the prickly pear. And they had so many years to clear the prickly pear off it. And how did they do it in the early days? They had to chop it out and take it away and burn it, because if even one tiny piece of that lands on the ground, it will grow. It will grow another prickly pear. And that's why it's so voracious. There were no natural predators in Australia for it, and it didn't belong here, like so many things. However, after a while, the scientists found a cactoblastis beetle, which would eat this. And that reclaimed many thousands of square kilometres of otherwise unusable country. So we've made it to the Lemon Tree Flat campground. This is roughly a third of the way. Last time I was here, this was all lush green grass. You can see how badly the drought is affecting things. It's all dry and dead. There's all kinds of facilities here. All of these campgrounds and the day use area have got gas barbecues, tables, shelter sheds, all sorts of things. Toilets. And there are water tanks where you can get some non-potable water. You have to boil or treat before you can drink it. This campsite is also on the banks of the Severn River. So the one I'm staying at, the Kookabitta campsite, is running on an east-west alignment. So this one, the river is turned back towards the north as it starts to make its way around towards the junction where we're going next. You can see some beautiful big rock outcrops here, just on the ridge across from us. It's a gorgeous campsite, and it was really a toss of a coin as to which campsite we were going to stay at. And you can see it's almost empty. So we've left the campground now. We're on the start of the Junction walk. We start off by going through some of these beautiful gorges, surrounded by these granite cliffs. Few little trees gripping on at the edge. This looks like another one of those areas where a few remnants of a past era are clinging on. These aren't the usual fire-adapted eucalypt trees. These are more the sort of thing you would see in a rainforest section. A little connection with our living past. Fascinating. Now, I better get on the track. Now, just up this little bit of a ridge here, up on top of this rock, you can see there's a balancing rock being formed. In fact, there's also some goats just up the hill a bit. So just up behind that rock and trees in front of me, there's a few feral goats. There's a big feral goat population in this district. They are a pest, an introduced pest. But you will see them in the park, along with a few other feral animals. What I brought you here to see is this is geology in motion. So come around this side and we can see this big slab has broken away. And you can see more cracks and gaps where more slabs are going to break off this boulder. And it's coming down to a point, a small point, and you can see there are more loose gaps, bits of stone that will fall away in the coming years with more erosion. As we keep walking around this thing, you can see on all sides the base is broken away. And the goats hang out in there, that's some of their droppings. And it'll be interesting to come back and look at this rock in a few thousand years or even a million years, as it might be down on a really fine point. One of those spectacular balancing rocks where the weight of the rock itself is what holds it up. You can see this whole ridge is basically just granite. So there's very little soil. And the soil that's there is quite poor. It's not nutrient dense or rich. And so this was always a bit of hard luck country. And while it was farmed, and then they tried growing tobacco here and so on, is not quite on par with the richer pastures further to the east and south. Anyway, I find this stuff fascinating. It's worth stopping in to have a little look at a few things, eh? This little group of plants growing here, the name of them passes me by just now, but they're very minty smelling. I think this is one of the native mints that you'll find growing in some of these national parks. Would have been used as a bush mint back in the day. They get lovely flowers and a beautiful aroma in springtime. Now we've been climbing for a little while, and I can see why. We've got a bit of a look out here over this beautiful gorge. And the sign says 7 River Falls. I doubt there'll be much falling today, but let's have a look and see what we can see. Careful not to fall off this cliff. This is a big one. Oh, not too bad actually. Thought it was a lot further down. Now the river's very low at the moment, but you can imagine what this looks like when the river's in full force. So it's still the Severn River here. We keep winding our way towards the northwest, where we're going to meet up with the McIntyre in a few kilometres. But it's a really gorgeous look at the valley. It's also a gorgeous look at the power of water over millions of years, carving away these gorges and rocks. Granite's not exactly a soft rock, but the water and the time make short work of it. Now as I walk along, I'm seeing all these little bits of granite with all these little pockmarks in them. Pieces like this. Now I know that granite is formed in the molten magma far, far, far underneath the crust of the earth, and then gets pushed up by different geologic processes. What I don't know is it like other forms of volcanic rock where hot gases will be stored in the molten rock and then will dry and harden, leaving those little gas pockets? Is that what some of these little pockets are that we can see in the rocks? Or is that simply a process of natural erosion, removing larger particles from the rocks? Now I don't know the answer, so I'd love it if you know the answer. Leave me a comment and tell me all about it, because I find this stuff very interesting. So we've come down to a little spot that they call the Junction. This is a medieval torture chamber. Not quite. This is the Severn River still. We're a little bit further downstream from where I last showed you down the gorge. And have a look at this gorgeous little gorge. Now you look at all those stones, you can see those round sections. That's where it's just been eroding. The rock gets caught in there, it gets washed around and around and around with strong water pressure. Right now there's hardly any water in there. But a few months ago, the water would have been all over these rocks and she would have been a raging torrent. I'm actually a little bit sorry I didn't come and look at it while it was like that. This whole gorge exists just because of that action over years and years. So that's the Junction. And while it doesn't have anything to do with a castle or a lord, it actually has a history of millions of years. And I find it probably even more fascinating. What a beautiful sight, and it's a beautiful day. It wasn't so bloody hot. Here's one I've nearly walked into. Just at my face height. I think I'll go around. Righto, so we're getting down towards it. Walking down this bit of a rock face. Come down off the ridge. There's been a lot of downhill work, so going to be a lot of uphill work before we get back. Then just a fair bit of downhill again, and some steady undulations all the way back. Now this has been a bit of a tougher walk than I expected, I'll admit. It's taken me longer than I thought it would, and I have to say I brought the pack with me today so I could get a bit of pack training in. I haven't been carrying the pack lately, and I've got a few plans for later in the year that I want to get some fitness back up for, so I'll be carrying the pack a bit on some walks, and it's made a difference, the extra weight, the extra load. But anyway, that's enough complaining. Let's actually have a look at what we came here to see. So over here on the right, this is the Severn River. Cockatoos talking to each other. So that's the gorge we've been walking along for the last few kilometres. Down here in front of us is where it converges on with the McIntyre. So this part here is the very last part of the Severn River. It's not a long river. It's only, I forget now, I'll put it up on the screen. Starts over near where I live, actually, in the vicinity of the mountains, near a little town called Bald Knob, and then works its way through a roundabout fashion, picking up, I think, something like 22 tributaries, little creeks and streams and so on that all feed into it. And just down here is where it meets up with the McIntyre. And the McIntyre River flows westwards out through Gundawindi and so on, and eventually it meets up with the Blonde River, and then it joins up much further to the south in with the Murray-Darling. And when the water's running, this water actually ends up all the way down, coming out near Adelaide in South Australia. So it travels for many thousands of kilometres, and I always find these things quite interesting. My knees are feeling it, and I'm going to feel it going back up again in the lungs. Anyway, we can't pull up here. We've got to make it all the way. We've come this far, eh? Some beautiful pools down here. I bet it's a nice spot to go swimming, particularly when there's a little bit more water in the river. Should be a little bit stagnant and nasty at the moment because it's not flowing very much. But you can see this nice little beach area. There's a few of these all around. There's some more over here. And now we're looking at the McIntyre over there. And I'll try and walk down to where the two rivers converge. So here we are. This is the junction. Nice little sign. You can't hunt, camp, bring your dog here. But down here is where the two rivers converge. On our right is the Severn River, which we've been following. So out there, that's all the McIntyre from now on. The two rivers meet right here. We've disturbed a kangaroo and woken him up. They usually have a camp through the day. He would have been having a nice snooze, and I've come along and bothered him. So he may well have been having a snooze down in this shady spot near the tree where it's a bit flattened down. That'd be a good spot for a kangaroo. Now, I don't want to walk through all this grass. Snakes will be out. I don't have my gaiters on, but you can see here on my left, the McIntyre, there on my right, the Severn, and up there, that's all the McIntyre from there on out, all the way down to South Australia. So we made it. Was it worth it? Yeah, it was. It was a really good walk. It was very interesting for me, and I enjoyed it. There's a lot of parrots down here on the river. You can hear different sorts. We've been hearing the cockatoos all day. And there's a few other sorts of parrots here. I think it's called a turquoise parrot or something. It's one I'm not very familiar with, but I think that's the higher pitch sound that we're hearing. We've made it. Now I'm going to have a break and I'm going to walk back. But anyway, this walk was listed as a grade 4 walk, and I think it earns that. I've been on some other grade 4 walks that definitely didn't challenge me that much, but this one challenged me a bit more. I had to be careful of my footing, a lot of undulation, a lot of variable track, and took it out of me a little bit, so I'm definitely keen for a rest. And this shady table is heaven sent.
for me to sit down and have a little rest before I go on. I'm going to wrap the video up here though. So thank you very much for watching. I hope it was interesting for you. And don't forget to leave me a like if you did enjoy the video. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.